I'm Katie Couric. Tonight, an exclusive report about the next terror threat. Al-Qaeda fighters trained in Iraq are reportedly ready to fan out and take their campaign of terror beyond the Middle East. Also tonight, a final salute to the fallen heroes of that Charleston fire. Brains and brothers. Researchers find a link between a sibling's rank in the family and his IQ. And you thought it could only happen in cartoons. Wait till you see what this guy can do with a bunch of balloons.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Hello, everyone. We begin tonight with new terror threats. Officials in Germany say the threat of an attack there is on the rise, and they're comparing the intelligence they're getting now to the kind that surfaced in the weeks before the 9/11 attacks. And CBS News has learned that Al-Qaeda forces trained in Iraq may soon be targeting Europe and beyond. Sheila McVicker got exclusive access to a new and troubling report.
With U.S. forces putting the pressure on al-Qaeda strongholds and the military admitting top leaders have escaped, intelligence agencies have come to an ominous conclusion. Al-Qaeda fighters who slip away are ready to expand their fight to Europe and the Gulf. A letter from al-Qaeda's number 2 intercepted last month urged foreign fighters to take their campaign of terror beyond Iraq's borders. The jihadi veterans of Iraq are battle-hardened survivors of the world's toughest urban guerrilla fighting against some of the world's best soldiers.
If you survive that, you're able to do anything, essentially.
Thomas Sanderson, an expert in global terror threats, is preparing to publish a year-long study tracking foreign fighters.
You have that impact that says, I survived all of those factors, all of those groups that were arrayed against me, and that gives you a sense of infallibility and lethality.
In an audio tape posted on the internet, one insurgent leader described it this way: if Afghanistan was a school, Iraq is a university of terrorism.
They've been able to learn how to miniaturize bombs, how to surveil, how to counter-surveil, how to snipe, how to escape, how to use safe houses, how to disguise themselves.
And how to move around the region with ease. Intelligence sources tell CBS that under pressure from the U.S., the route in through Syria is now largely closed. In some cases, jihadists are using European airports with direct flights to northern Iraq. The trip out now takes survivors to neighboring Arab states, North Africa, and Europe. The impact is spreading. In Lebanon, al-Qaeda veterans from Iraq held off U.S.-equipped Lebanese special forces for a month. In Algeria, a bombing campaign carried out by local Islamists allied with al-Qaeda used techniques imported from Iraq. Intelligence agencies call Algeria the gateway to Europe. French intelligence acknowledges tracking about 30 people that they know have left France for Iraq. A dozen are dead, a dozen more in custody. The rest have vanished, and the French admit they don't know where they are. But they do know they're part of a new generation of terrorists. In the words of one analyst, rock stars to their followers. Trained in war, committed to destruction, and some of them may be headed our way. Sheila McVicker, CBS News, London.
That terror threat is why U.S. and Iraqi troops are trying to tighten the noose on al-Qaeda in Iraq. The largest operation is north of Baghdad in Baquba. The U.S. military said today American helicopters killed 17 suspected terrorists as they tried to sneak out of town, and another 50 so-called high-value suspects have been arrested. Meanwhile, there are growing signs tonight that the Iraqi government is in trouble, and that's bad news for the United States. From Baghdad, here's Lara Logan.
Go! The U.S. surge is now fully underway, hunting down al-Qaeda and other enemies of the Iraqi government. But CBS News has learned that Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki's government is also under threat from within. After dozens of interviews with Iraqi political leaders, both inside and outside the government, it's clear a broad-based movement is underway to bring down the current government. It's called the Iraq Project, and CBS News obtained a written copy of their manifesto. It outlines the plan to do this using constitutional means, a no-confidence vote in the Iraqi parliament that will force Prime Minister Maliki to resign. One of the project leaders, Aziz al-Yaziri, is a former general and veteran politician. He says the key to the plan is that the new prime minister would appoint his own ministers. Right now, the ministers who run all government departments are appointed by their political parties. Each party has become a dictator in their own department, Yaziri says. So we now have what we call a multi-party dictatorship instead of a government of national unity. They say the result is a sectarian government which fuels the violence instead of stopping it.
What can you tell me about...
The Speaker of Iraq's parliament and a leader of the largest Sunni bloc backing this project, Mahmoud al-Mashadani, warns that if we stay in this current situation, we will fail, and our friends will fail with us. They claim the U.S. is fully aware of this project, but for now, President Bush continues to back the Iraqi prime minister, and that's what's holding them back.
It's time for the Americans to decide. Otherwise, more casualties will go from the Iraqis and the Americans themselves. It's a waste of time, actually, to give more support. But this waste of time led to also a waste of life, which is very critical and very serious.
Do you hope for a vote before General Petraeus goes to the U.S. in September to testify?
Yes.
With both Iraqi and U.S. leaders rushing to get something done before September, for once the two countries' political calendars may be in sync. Lara Logan, CBS News, Baghdad.
Meanwhile, the Bush administration said today several dozen terror suspects will soon be transferred from Guantanamo Bay to a prison in Afghanistan that the U.S. is helping to renovate. Discussions are underway inside the administration about closing Guantanamo, but sources tell our Jim Axelrod there won't be an announcement about that for at least 2 months. About 375 terror suspects are still being held in that controversial prison. In other news tonight, a homecoming for Atlantis. The shuttle touched down this afternoon in California. NASA wanted to land in Florida, but storms there forced a change of venue. During the 2-week mission, the crew delivered new equipment to the space station and picked up astronaut Sunny Williams, who spent 195 days in space, which is a record for a woman. Meanwhile, firefighters from all over the country gathered today in Charleston, South Carolina, to honor 9 members of their extended family. 9 fallen heroes killed when the roof collapsed on them as they were fighting a fire in a furniture store. It was the biggest single loss for a fire department since September 11th. From Charleston, here's Mark Strassman.
Like the grief, today's memorial convoy seemed endless. 300 fire trucks alone, at one point filing past the wreckage from Monday's disaster. Darlene Williams is still in disbelief.
In an instant, their lives changed, families changed, everything.
From California to Massachusetts, it was as though every fire station in America felt this loss.
We're a family, and families stick together. It's the best part about this job.
So this is a family funeral?
Yes, it is.
They were the Charleston 9. The faces of the victims in America's deadliest firefighting disaster since 9/11. Inside North Charleston's Coliseum, 20,000 people stared at 9 flag-draped coffins. Fire Chief Rusty Thomas knew each of the fallen. He remembered driving to one fire when Earl Drayton was especially agitated.
And he's hollering, "Rusty, get this thing going!" And I said, what's the problem? I'm going as fast. He said, "That's my house."
The cause of this deadly disaster is still under investigation, but newly released 911 calls point to a fire that somehow began in the back of the building.
There's a big fire in the back of the warehouse. Okay,
in Charleston, Station 16 is now considered sacred space, home to 6 of the fallen. Today, neighboring firefighters stood watch here.
It really makes you think of your family, what they might think.
Every time you walk out the door?
Yes, sir, every time.
This community will always remember the day 16 firefighters walked in a furniture store, but only 7 walked out. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Charleston, South Carolina.
There is much more CBS News ahead, including the push to have addiction to video games declared a psychiatric disorder. Some doctors say playing them can be as addictive as heroin. And if there's sibling rivalry in your family, oh brother, a new study about IQs may just make it worse. We'll tell you about that next. In health news tonight, surveys show more than half of Americans use unregulated vitamins, herbs, and other dietary supplements. But now the FDA has announced new rules to make them safer. For the very first time, supplement makers will be required to analyze and test their ingredients and to label the products accurately. Now to a new scientific study that's sure to set off a debate or two around the dinner table. When it comes to brothers, does older mean wiser? Here's Kelly Wallace.
Who's the smartest one in the Bernstein family?
Me.
No. There's a debate between 10-year-old Maddie and 8-year-old Zach.
Well, I'm older, so I've had 2 more years than him. I don't care. To be alive and to learn.
Sorry, Zach. Maddie may be right, at least according to a study published today in the journal Science. Researchers studied 250,000 Norwegian 18 and 19-year-old young men and found that, on average, the older child had an IQ a little more than 2 points higher than their younger siblings. The explanation? The older child has more undivided attention from parents during his or her first years.
When parents are able to spend a lot of time with their kids, it does really enhance their intellectual functioning. Their brain develops in that environment where they get lots of input.
A few points difference might not sound like much, but child experts say it could be the difference between a high B and a low A. And that could mean the difference between getting into an elite college or landing a top job. Famous firstborns, including Albert Einstein, Franklin Roosevelt, and computer guru Steve Jobs, seem to validate the study, but there are plenty of exceptions, so parents don't worry. Consider Thomas Jefferson, the third of 8 children, and Thomas Edison, the youngest of 7. The mother of Maddie, Zach, Tess, and Devin agrees.
I'm the youngest of 4, so obviously I have a different take on the story. I think all youngest are the most intelligent.
And to show how smart she is, Maddie didn't argue that point with her mom. Kelly Wallace, CBS News, Sleepy Hollow, New York.
And I agree with that, Mom. Of course, any parent will tell you it's easy for kids to get hooked on video games these days. In fact, the American Medical Association says more than 5 million may be addicted to them. And at a meeting that starts tomorrow, the AMA will decide whether to classify video game addiction as a psychiatric disorder that could force health insurance companies to pay for treatment. Here's Daniel Seberg.
17-year-old Phil Anton loves video games, but he's never let them get in the way of school or sports. He knows when to put down the controller, or in his case, the Xbox guitar.
Like, in this game you're a rock star, it's real fun.
But there's growing concern not everyone knows when to stop. Take this posting at Online Gamers Anonymous from someone who claims to be 13 years old. I hardly go outside and I never talk to friends, go to parties, or anything else, all to play this one game. That's the kind of video game playing that concerns the American Medical Association. This weekend, they'll be debating a report, warning in particular about online games involving role-playing and never-ending quests. Games like World of Warcraft, EverQuest, or Final Fantasy. Draft recommendations suggest that internet video game addiction be included as a formal diagnostic disorder.
It's getting to the point where they may be playing 3, 4, 5 hours a day, and we need to look at whether compulsive use of video games should be considered a medical diagnosis.
A statement by the video game industry says the American Medical Association is making premature conclusions without the benefit of complete and thorough data. But whether video game addiction becomes official or not, it's apparent there are those who need help separating fantasy from reality. Daniel Seberg, CBS News, New York.
And coming up next, what impact will Michael Moore's new movie on the state of American health care have on the state of the presidential race? If you're happy with the healthcare system in this country, well, you're in the minority. In a CBS News New York Times poll, 9 out of 10 people told us the system needs fundamental change or a complete overhaul. Filmmaker Michael Moore has his own point of view on that in a movie that's just opened, smack in the middle of the presidential campaign. Here's Jeff Greenfield.
Another movie premiere, the red carpet, the paparazzi. But the draw this night isn't a pirate captain or Spider-Man, but this man. Filmmaker Michael Moore, whose new film Sicko assails America's healthcare system and champions, more or less uncritically, a government-run healthcare system.
We can no longer have a system where private health insurance is calling the shots. We have to remove profit.
Sicko features affecting stories of personal suffering at the hands of indifferent corporations. And the film celebrates the government-run systems of Canada, France, and Britain. The film does not include critics of those systems.
It's not America.
Most controversially, Moore took 9/11 rescue workers, denied health care after taking ill, to Guantanamo Bay to demand the same care given al-Qaeda suspects.
Hello?
Later, at a Havana hospital, they received health care that Moore claimed was typical for Cubans. That assertion is likely to be sharply challenged. But beyond the arguments that seem to surround every Michael Moore movie, is it accurate advocacy, is it distorted propaganda, lies a bigger question. Could it help shape the direction, even the outcome of the coming presidential campaign? Recent history says there is reason for some skepticism. There are examples of cultural events that helped shape politics. The 1979 movie The China Syndrome intensified anti-nuclear sentiment. By contrast, 1983's The Right Stuff did nothing to advance the presidential hopes of former astronaut John Glenn. And Moore himself says his 2004 smash, Fahrenheit 9/11, didn't change many minds about President Bush.
Probably a lot of people who went to see it already didn't like what was going on.
So far, the candidates for president have all talked a lot about changing the healthcare system.
Then we should have a health savings account. No new bureaucracies.
Make it a wellness system and make it a prevention system.
But no one, Democrat or Republican, has come close to advocating the kind of government-run national health system Michael Moore proposes. Why not? Health analyst Paul Ginsberg says Americans are just different.
We're much less willing to have government make decisions for people than is the case in Canada and Europe. It's a cultural difference.
Michael Moore has proven that he can bring much bigger audiences to his movies than the typical documentary. But if history is any guide, Sicko is likely to have a much bigger impact at the box office than at the ballot box. Jeff Greenfield, CBS News, New York.
Coming up next, Up, Up, and Away with his beautiful balloons. So tell me you never wondered about this when you were a kid. If you had enough balloons, could you really fly? And how many would you need? Well, wonder no more. Steve Hartman has the answer in tonight's Assignment America.
This is George. He was very curious.
Any kid who's read Curious George has had to be curious themselves.
The whole bunch broke loose.
What would it be like to be carried away by balloons?
You see him?
Well, I've got a TV story about a guy I call Curious John.
He thought, what if I tried to do that myself? Can you see?
He's not floating yet.
Curious John begins his adventures early in the morning with about 20 volunteers, 80 balloons, and $1,400 worth of helium.
It's quite a production.
His real name is John Ninomiya, and he's the only person in the country that does this.
I had to find various suppliers for the balloons and do the testing.
What are these balloons made for?
Flying out in front of a car dealership or...
So they're not made for aviation?
No, they are not.
Fortunately, John knows a lot about risk assessment. He actually works as an actuary.
How many of you want to grow up and be an actuary?
Clearly, not the most exciting part of his story.
Okay.
John's kind of a Clark Kent in that way.
Go ahead and let me go.
Mild-mannered by day job.
Bye-bye.
Like a bird on his off time. An experienced hot air balloon pilot, he first decided to try this about 10 years ago. Since then, he's done close to 50 flights. Most have been at fairs and festivals, like this one in Georgia. And so far, all have been picture-perfect launches.
He's almost to the clouds.
But he had to figure out one other thing. What else did he have to figure out? Yes.
How to get down.
How to get down.
For that not so unimportant detail,
There's a balloon going off.
John brings a knife, cuts away the balloons one at a time until eventually, hopefully, he finds a nice flat farmer's field with a nice friendly farmer. He got lucky this time. Landings aren't always so happy, which is why.
What would your advice be for kids who want to try this at home?
I don't think this is a good thing for kids to try at home.
Sorry to burst your bubbles, kids. Steve Hartman, CBS News, Reynolds, Georgia.
Yeah, I've never seen anything quite like it. It's just great.
Stop inhaling that stuff, Steve. Next Friday, Steve will have another story about two grade school chess champions who have a lot more than a game in common. If you'd like to suggest a story for Steve, who, by the way, is getting married this weekend, go to cbsnews.com and just click on Assignment America.
Tonight's Assignment America segment is sponsored by ExxonMobil, taking on the world's toughest energy challenges.
And that's the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Katie Couric in New York. Thanks for watching this week. Have a great weekend. Good night.
High-tech first aid tomorrow on the Saturday Early Show. CBS News. See it now, anytime, anywhere.